and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll start with correspondence. Have any correspondence today?
Yes, I only have one report that on the 29th of April, the town board adopted a resolution subject to permissive referendum concerning a proposed 40-year lease between the town of Shelter Island and Suffolk County Water Authority. No petition was filed concerning this referendum. Therefore, the resolution adopted on April 29th took effect. That's just to get it in the minutes.
Yep. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with setting some public hearings.
All right.
Do you want to get us started?
Whereas Cardillo Family Irrevocable Trust Agreement, care of Gary Gifford Cardillo and Jeffrey Ray Cardillo, co-trustees, Westmoreland Drive, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to remove and replace in place approximately 227 linear feet of existing timber bulkhead with vinyl bulkhead and backfill with up to 25 cubic yards of clean sand to be trucked in from an approved upland source. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for public hearing to be held at 4:40 p.m. prevailing time on the first day of July 2022 for all interesting persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Richard Burge of 92 Peconic Avenue has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to remove and dispose of a 72-foot existing west jetty, construct a new 66.4-foot jetty in kind in place, remove and dispose of a 42-foot inshore end of existing middle jetty, construct a new 42-foot inshore end of middle jetty in kind in place, and resheath the outside of the 105-foot existing east bulkhead. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 53-9 of the Code of Town of Shelter Island, the town board hereby calls for a public hearing to be held at 4:42 prevailing time on the first day of July 2022 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed construction. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to credit the reimbursement funds received from Verizon in the amount of $19.62 to the A1620.483 telephones account and the reimbursement funds received from Ford Motor Company in the amount of $36,371 to the A3120.272 Police Department new car account. And be it further resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized to credit the funds received from the New York Municipal Insurance in the amount of $9,577.20 to the Highway DA 2680 Insurance Recovery account. Be it further resolved that the following budget modifications are hereby approved. Increase DA to 2680 by said amount and increase DA 5130-446 account by said amount. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I was going to say, wasn't that part of that first one?
No.
Oh, it's a separate one.
Yeah.
Whereas the police department had received a reimbursement from the Department of Justice in the amount of $199.50 for the Bulletproof Vest grant funds, and whereas receipt of these funds was unknown at budget time, now therefore be it resolved that the following 2022 budget revisions are hereby approved. $199.50 increase to the 2022 A4389 federal reimbursement public safety revenue account and $199.50 increase to the 2022 A3120.487 police uniform allowance. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 30IH of the Public Officers Law, a town officer must sign and file a constitutional oath of office within 30 days after the term of office begins. And whereas Paul Shepard was reappointed on April 29th, 2022 to serve as a member of the Contractor License Review Board. And whereas Mr. Shepard has not yet signed and filed a constitutional oath of office. And whereas the town board desires to have Mr. Shepard serve the town of Shelter Island in designated capacity. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby reappoints Paul Shepard to serve as a member of the Contractors License Review Board for a term to expire March 11th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. whereas pursuant to section 31H of the Public Officers Law, a town officer must sign and file a constitutional oath of office within 30 days after the term of office begins. And whereas Donna Cypress was reappointed on April 29th, 2022 to serve as a member of the West Neck Water District Board of Directors, and whereas Ms. Cypress has not yet signed or filed said constitutional oath of office, and whereas the town board desires to have Ms. Cypress serve the town of Shelter Island in designated capacity, now therefore be it resolved that town board hereby reappoints Donna Cypress to serve as a member of the West Neck Water District Board of Directors for a term to expire on April 25th, 2027. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 31H of the Public Officers Law, the town officer must sign and file a constitutional oath of office within 30 days after the terms of the office begins. Whereas Wendy Turgeon has been reappointed on April 29th to serve as a member of the West Neck Water District Board of Directors. And whereas Ms. Turgeon has not yet signed and filed said constitutional oath of office, whereas the town board desires to have Ms. Turgeon serve the town of Shelter Island in designated capacity. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby reappoints Wendy Turgeon to serve as a member of the West Neck Water District Board of Directors for a term to expire April 25th, 2027. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 31 of the Public Officers Law, a town officer must sign and file a constitutional oath of office within 30 days after the term of office begins. And whereas Coco Lee Thuman was appointed on March 11th, 2022 to serve as a member of the Capital Planning / Grants Committee, Community Housing Board, Community Housing Fund Advisory Committee, Conservation Advisory Council, EMS Board, Green Options Committee, Planning Board, Water Advisory Committee, Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board, Assessment Board of Review, Media Department Personnel, $10,000 per year, Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee, and Zoning Board of Appeals. And whereas Ms. Thuman has not yet signed and filed said constitutional oath of office, and whereas the town board desires to have Ms. Thuman serve the town of Shelter Island in designated capacities, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby reappoints Coco Lee Thuman to serve as a member of the said committee for 38.6 hours per week to be paid as per the 2022 budget. So moved.
Second.
Quick discussion.
Mhm.
This is kind of a mixed bag. This is to appoint her to the committees, but this is to approve her as the clerk.
Yes, clerk to the committees.
Clerk.
Yes, I'm sorry. I skipped over that.
Okay,
Not as a member. It's just the clerk.
gotcha. Okay.
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Legion Hall?
Yes, sorry. Whereas Legion Hall has been designated as a town cooling center in accordance with the town's FEMA-approved hazard mitigation plan, and whereas the existing Legion Hall generator cannot support the electrical load required to sustain cooling center operations in the event of a power outage, and whereas the cost of a new generator is estimated at $35,054, and whereas the hazard mitigation grant program includes backup power for critical facilities such as cooling centers as an eligible project type, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island approves the town's submission of the Legion Hall Cooling Center Generator Project to the New York State DHSES under DR-4480 and DR-4615, and be it further resolved that if awarded under DR-4480 or DR-4615, the grant will be providing funding at 90% of the eligible project costs, with the remaining 10% burden to be covered by the town. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas in accordance with the resolution adopted November 13th, 2021, the town of Shelter Island submitted an application to the New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services under the Hazardous Mitigation Grant Program under HMGP-DR-4085 for the Ferry Flood Mitigation Advanced Assistance Project. And whereas the purpose of the Ferry Flood Mitigation Advanced Assistance Project is to investigate and design infrastructure at the North and South Ferry terminals to increase storm resiliency and provide additional operational functionality to support the town's emergency management plans. And whereas HMGP DR-4085 provided for a maximum of 75% federal funding and 25% local matching funds, And whereas the total project cost is estimated to be $224,070, and whereas the New York State DHSES announced additional HMGP funding opportunities under DR 4480 and DR 4615, each of which provides for a maximum of 90% federal funding for eligible project costs and requires a 10% local match share. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board for the town of Shelter Island ratifies the town's reimbursement for the Ferry Flood Mitigation Advanced Assistance Project to the New York State DHSES under DR 4480 and DR 4615. And be it further resolved that if awarded under the DR 4480 and the DR 4615, the grant will be provided funding at 90% of eligible project costs, with the remaining 10% to be covered by the town. So moved. And I just want to point out that we've been working on our mitigation plan for an extended period of time. And Chief Reed works very closely with both ferry terminals to take measures, obviously during storms and things like that. And we're noticing that through the last decade, there's been a lot more flooding going on in those plaza areas. So there are different methods that we can work on in order to improve that, so that we can run an ambulance in an emergency situation in the worst of tides and get a person safely off the island to a hospital. And of course, helicopters are usually not flying during those storms. So we rely very heavily to getting an ambulance off the island. So that's what that is all about. And we are pursuing grant monies to get that done, along with the two ferry terminals companies.
So moved. Before I second, I just want to explain to everybody these last two resolutions. In the past, the town board would apply for grants and get them and then say, well, we don't have the money for our share. So by doing these resolutions, we're committing to make sure that we commit our share if we get the grants. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 33 of the Shelter Island Town Code, the Shelter Island 10K Run Board has requested permission as per application to hold the 43rd annual Shelter Island 10K Run and the 5K Run Walk on Shelter Island on Saturday, June 18th, 2022, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Shelter Island American Legion Post and the Shelter Island School. And whereas the required fees of $100 application fee and a $100 compliance fee, have they been submitted or waived?
It's being waived in here.
Yeah. Okay. Compliance fee will be waived.
Wait, Dottie?
Dottie, are we waiving those fees?
Yeah, I'm confused which ones are which now.
The 10K was paid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Chamber of Commerce.
All right.
That's
Okay.
Compliance fee has been submitted, and whereas pursuant to section 33-2B2, the town board has determined that the proposed run and walk will benefit the town, and no fees will be required for police and highway costs associated with the event. Whereas said applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, and whereas the police department has responded, they are prepared to assist with this event as they have done in the past. And whereas the superintendent of highways responded that if there are any markings on the street, they must be washable and any signage removed immediately after the race, and the highway department will coordinate any details with the racing committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby does approve this event. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the 43rd annual Shelter Island 10K Run and the 5K Run Walk will be held on Saturday, June 18th, 2022. And whereas the town of Shelter Island wants to take reasonable steps to ensure the safety of the residents and visitors who will be attending this race, especially in light of the dangers illustrated by the Boston bombing in April 2013 and other national events that have illustrated similar dangers. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Shelter Island Police Department is authorized to take reasonable security precautions, especially at the race start and finish areas, to protect the runners, residents, and visitors to the 43rd annual Shelter Island 10K Run and the 5K Run Walk. And be it further resolved that the town board strongly encourages all runners, residents, and visitors to cooperate in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of all. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Shelter Island Historical Society, 16 South Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York, has filed an application for an outdoor assembly permit to hold a fundraiser dance party to be held on Saturday, July 30th, 2022, from 6 to 10 p.m. for approximately 200 attendees and approximately 110 vehicles. And whereas the required fees of $100 application fee and $100 compliance fee have been submitted, and whereas said applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, and whereas the application has been referred to the police department and the highway department for recommendations, and whereas the police department has responded that the need for additional fees for police services will not be required, and whereas the highway department has responded that there must not be any obstructions on the road during this event, and all garbage must be picked up in the area. Now therefore be it resolved that said request is hereby granted. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas pursuant to Chapter 33 of the Shelter Island Town Code, the Shelter Island Historical Society has requested permission as per application dated February 2nd, 2022, to hold a musical/play on July 23rd, 24th, 25th of 2022, with a rain date of July 31st through August 1st, 2022. And whereas the same conditions as was just read, be it resolved that the request for said permission is hereby approved. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 33 of the Shelter Island Town Code, Billy Baldwin of the Great Peconic Race has requested permission as per application to hold the paddle boat race at Wade's Beach on Sunday, July 31st, 2022, from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And whereas pursuant to section 33-2B2, the town board has determined that the proposed race will benefit the town and no fees will be required for police and highway costs associated with the event. Whereas the application was submitted to the police department and highway department for recommendations, whereas the police department has responded, they are prepared to assist with this event as they have done in the past. And whereas the superintendent of highways responded that if there are any markings on the street, they must be washable and any garbage must be cleaned from the site. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby approve the event, subject to the receipt of the application fee of $100 and a cleanup deposit of $100. Be it further resolved that said request is hereby approved, subject to the receipt of a current insurance certificate and permission from the U.S. Coast Guard. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to Chapter 33 of the Shelter Island Town Code, the Shelter Island Chamber of Commerce has requested permission as per application dated April 25th, 2022, to hold the art show and craft fair on the Shelter Island School grounds on August 20th, 2022. And whereas the application was submitted to the Police Department and Highway Department, and whereas the town board has waived the required fees of $100 application fee and $100 compliance fee, and whereas the Shelter Island Highway Department has stated as follows: all garbage must be picked up in the area and taken away by caterers. And whereas the Shelter Island Police Department is there to assist with this event as done in the past. Now therefore be it resolved that the request is set for said permission is hereby approved. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the Shelter Island Chamber of Commerce has requested permission to hang an announcement banner across Route 114 between the Shelter Island Presbyterian Church building and the Verizon pole on the south side of Route 114, advertising the arts show and craft fair event for Saturday, August 20th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that said request is hereby approved. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Stephen Searle of Sylvester Manor Educational Farm at 80 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York, has filed an application for an outdoor assembly permit to hold the 9th annual Farm to Table benefit dinner to be held on June 25th, 2022, from 6 to 10 p.m. for approximately 400 attendees between 100 and 150 vehicles. And whereas the required application fee and compliance fee have been submitted, and whereas said applicant has requested an exemption from the noise ordinance, now therefore be it resolved that said request is hereby granted, subject to the provisions of the current insurance as required by the town code. So moved.
Just so everybody understands, when they're requesting an exemption from the noise ordinance, because it's a charitable event, it has to be a guaranteed $1,000 contribution to the charity. Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to section 33 of the Shelter Island Town Code, Mariana Kohler, as representative for a bride and groom, has requested permission as per application to hold a wedding at Wade's Beach on Saturday, June 11th, 2022, from 4 to 6 p.m. to be attended by approximately 20 persons. And whereas it has been requested to reserve the use of the pavilion at Wade's Beach for said 2 hours. And whereas said application was referred to the police department and highway department, whereas the police department has responded that the need for additional fees police service will not be required. Whereas the highway department has responded, if there are any markings on the street, they must be washable and any garbage must be cleaned up from the site. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby approves said application upon receipt of the application and cleanup fees, and further grant permission to reserve the use of the pavilion for the said 2-hour period, subject to the erection of signs by the Public Works Department indicating same. And be it further resolved that the town does hereby stipulate that the beach and adjacent parking spaces will not be closed to public use during the proposed event. So moved.
Second.
Just a comment on that. We just got this one and it's a small, very, very small wedding, 20 people or less, and it's late in the day. We normally don't take that during the summertime, but because it was a very small wedding and because it is off the main thoroughfare there, the only time they'd have to use the pavilion there is, inclement weather type of thing. So, we went along with it. So.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas 5 Winthrop LLC / Susan Weber filed an application for an outdoor assembly, and whereas the Outdoor Assembly Committee has determined that the proposed event does not require a town permit for which a fee was paid, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to return the fee of $200 to 5 Winthrop LLC / Susan Weber, 136 Cantato Street, Katona, New York, 10536. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Whereas the Shelter Island Chamber of Commerce filed an application for an outdoor assembly, and whereas the town is waiving the application and compliance fees, now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to return the fee of $200 to the Shelter Island Chamber of Commerce, Box 598, Shelter Island, New York, 11964. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to expend the sum of $750 from the 2022 A1620.483 building telephone account to Telenet New York Incorporated, 115 North Richmond Avenue, Suite 1, Massapequa, New York, 11758-3439 for the service contract for the telephone system covering 1 July 2022 to 30 September 2022 at 2 locations. So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this one's, not that they're all not important, but this one's pretty important. Whereas the town of Shelter Island does not have an island hospital, and whereas the town of Shelter Island relies on emergency medical services to fill such a void, and whereas the number of an island EMS volunteers is decreasing due to retirement and other constraints, and whereas the Southampton Hospital Foundation is willing to partner with the town of Shelter Island to provide a paramedic first responder vehicle called FlyCar, and a certified credentialed paramedic to provide on-island emergency first aid 365 days a year between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And whereas the financial commitment to fund such a program is $235,000 annually, and the Southampton Hospital Foundation will contribute $117,500 and fuel cost. And whereas the town will contribute $117,500 plus ferriage, and whereas the town board finds this partnership necessary to protect the life, safety, and welfare of our residents and guests. Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute any and all documents in connection with the Southampton Hospital Foundation FlyCar program for the provision of a paramedic first responder vehicle, FlyCar, and a certified credentialed paramedic in order to provide on-island emergency first aid 365 days a year between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at a cost of $117,500 plus ferriage. So moved.
Just a comment, just so everybody understands this. This is pretty important, as the supervisor just said. Don't take this lightly, but we are retiring some senior people from the EMS, and they were people that are highly, highly trained. The requirements for EMS have gotten, much more difficult, requiring a lot more training on their part. So this is something that, if it ends up saving a life or two, and I predict it probably will, it's worth the money. We definitely need this kind of treatment. We do have an older group of people who live here on the island, myself included here, and we need to take this necessary step. And I think the fact that they're covering half the cost for this year, for next year, Southampton Hospital, it was something that we definitely wanted to get involved with. And thank you to Sergeant Thielberg who does all of this for us. He does an amazing job, and to the EMS in general, who do an amazing job for the people of Shelter Island. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Before Amber's going to read the next three, they're rather lengthy. So
I've tried to consolidate. We have 3 wetlands permit applications. So I'm going to go through the first one, highlighting what's the same for all 3, and then cutting down on what needs to be read for the next 2. So whereas N Consultants on March 11th, 2022 submitted a wetlands permit application on behalf of Wahid Ali pursuant to Chapter 129 of the Town Code to construct a new native basescape consisting of beach grass and sand, remove certain encroachments, and add certain structures and hardscaping within the regulated area. And whereas the subject property is located at 4 Dawn Lane, Shelter Island, New York, which is within the Zone AA with reversion to a residential zoning district, near shore and peninsular overlay district, with the Suffolk County tax map number of 0700-1-2-70.2, the property. And whereas the shoreline adjacent to the property is hardened by a bulkhead, and whereas the proposed project includes the removal of the following from the regulated area as shown on the Buttercup Design Group site plan dated February 10th, 2022. All existing lawn from the regulated area, 121 square feet of masonry steps, 21 square feet and 69 square feet concrete entry landings, 540 square feet of gravel area, 23 square feet and 351 square feet of masonry pool patio, and 33 square feet of masonry entry landings. And whereas the total project further includes the installation or construction of the following in the regulated area as shown on the Buttercup Design Group site plan dated February 10, 2022. 1,300 cubic yards of clean sand over approximately 10,000 square feet, 2,470 square feet of Cape American beach grass, 2,361 feet of 4-foot wide blue stone paver walkway. No, that's 236. 21 square feet and 49 square feet masonry entry landings, 1,010 square feet of clamshell area, 304 square feet of pool patio, 39 square feet of pervious gravel, 8 square feet fire pit, 95 square feet 4-foot wide wood walkway, 3 square feet masonry walkway landing, and 750 square feet gravel driveway. And this next part will apply to all 3. The only difference will be that each one has a different DEC permit and letter dated. So whereas the application was referred to the Planning Board and Conservation Advisory Council for recommendations, and recommendations have been submitted and considered, and whereas a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation letter of non-jurisdiction has been issued for the subject project, permit ID 1-4732-01142, dated January 24th, 2022, and whereas the board considered the proposed action at a public hearing pursuant to notice on May 20, 2022, whereas this board now wishes to render a decision on this wetlands application, and therefore be it resolved that this board hereby establishes itself as a lead agency pursuant to SECRA and finds that this is a type 2 action which will not result in a significant impact on the environment. And be it further resolved that the town board makes the following findings as to this application. This board hereby adopts the findings of the Planning Board and Conservation Advisory Council and concurs with the justifications and mitigation measures offered in the subject application. And be it further resolved that a wetlands permit for the above described work to be conducted at the property is hereby granted, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, subject to this is this one only. All construction shall be in full conformity with Buttercup Design Group site plan dated February 10, 2022. The next 2 through 16 are going to be the same for all 3. 2, construction procedures and erosion controls, including the anchored installation and maintenance of silt fences during all stages of construction, shall be required and be designed to prevent any runoff from disturbed ground into the wetlands areas. Soil disturbance should be minimized where possible. Stormwater management practices pursuant to Chapter 110 of the Town Code shall be employed, and if pre-existing, approved by the building inspector. The construction site must be cleared of all trash and debris on an ongoing basis with a minimum once per week. All construction materials and equipment shall be staged outside the regulated area. Parking of all construction and delivery vehicles shall be on the property to the extent reasonably possible. No public street or public or private right-of-way may be obstructed or impaired during construction. Applicant must repair any damage to any adjacent public road or street caused by construction vehicles to the satisfaction, not a hard word, of the town highway superintendent. The project manager shall post a sign on the site with his cell phone number and shall address in a timely fashion neighbor concerns regarding litter control, parking, noise, road conditions, and other impacts caused by the project. Noise control shall be pursuant to the town code. Applicants shall install dark sky compliant town code in all outdoor lighting pursuant to this project. The location of mitigation measures shall be examined by the building department prior to the start of work and periodically thereafter. This permit shall only be valid for construction commencing within 2 years of the date of this approval. The building inspector may halt construction for any violation of these restrictions or of the unified code. Upon completion of the work approved pursuant to this permit and the completion of any applicable conditions, the applicant must call for a final inspection and receive a written certificate of compliance from the building inspector. And be it further resolved that copies of this approval shall be filed with the building inspector. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye. Okay, the next one will be shorter. Whereas M Consultants on March 4th, 2022 submitted a wetlands permit application on behalf of No Name Road LLC pursuant to Chapter 129 of the Town Code to replace and enlarge a deck, landing with canopy, install HVAC condenser, and add a new step to an existing deck within the adjacent regulated area. Whereas the subject property is located at 47A Southbury Road, Shelter Island, New York, which is within the Zone AA with the reversion to A residential zoning district, near shore and peninsular overlay district, with a Suffolk County tax map number of 0700-20-1-3, the property. Whereas the shoreline adjacent to the property is hardened by a rock revetment. Whereas the proposed project includes removal of the following from the adjacent regulated area as shown on the Wojciech survey dated May 11th, 2021. 212 square feet of deck and 162 square feet of steps and 16 square feet landing. And whereas the project further includes the installation or construction of the following in the adjacent regulated area as shown on the Wojciech survey dated May 11th, 2021, 776 square feet deck, 21 square feet landing, AC condenser, and a new step. The additional conditions that are on this wetlands permit are all construction shall be in conformity with the Wojciech survey dated May 11th, 2021, last revised May 25th, 2022. All new decking and steps shall be constructed with 1/4-inch gaps between the boards. The kayak rack shall be relocated south of the 5-foot wide native plantings buffer. A 5-foot wide, 406 square foot native vegetative buffer shall be installed as reflected in the Wojciech survey dated May 11th, 2021, last revised May 25th, 2022, and the Chilnoki landscape plan dated June 7th, 2022. And that's it. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have one more.
One more. Just making sure I got these in the right here. Okay. Whereas Sherman Engineering and Consulting, PA, on March 31st, 2022, submitted a wetlands permit application on behalf of Jason Weisenfeld pursuant to Chapter 129 of the Town Code to remove an existing dwelling with attached garage, renovation of existing pool, reconfiguration of a patio, removal of a conventional cesspool, the construction of a new dwelling, the installation of stormwater control, and the rebuilding of timber stairs within the regulated area. And whereas the subject property is located at 14 Peconic Avenue, Shelter Island, New York, which is within the A residential zoning district, near shore and peninsular overlay districts, with a Suffolk County tax map number of 0700-21-1-17, the property. And whereas the shoreline adjacent to the property is not planned, whereas the proposed project includes the removal of the following from the regulated area as shown on the Sherman Engineering and Consulting, PA site plan dated March 31st, 2022. 1,260 square feet dwelling, conventional sanitary system, and a 381 square foot of patio, 67 square feet from adjacent regulated area, and 314 square feet from the vegetative buffer area. And whereas the project further includes the installation or construction of the following in the regulated area as shown on the Sherman Engineering and Consulting, PA site plan dated March 31st, 2022, 3,216 square feet dwelling, replacement of pool in place, 548 square feet of patio, 515 square feet, which is in the adjacent regulated area, and 33 square feet in the vegetative buffer. Stormwater controls and replacement of timber stairs in place and in kind. And the following conditions are applicable to this application. Is all construction shall be in full conformity with the Sherman Engineering and Consulting PA site plan dated March 31st, 2022. The 381 square foot of patio removed to the north of the pool shall be replaced with drought-resistant native grass. The railroad tie retaining wall on the north side of the property shall be removed. All patio areas shall be constructed with permeable material. Foundation dewatering is prohibited. All footings shall be kept 2 feet above the water table. All drip irrigation lines shall be removed and are prohibited from being used. The water well shall include a low flow pump, 5 gallons per minute. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Whereas Karen Garcia Springer, 16 St. Mary's Road, has petitioned the town board for a license to operate a commercial activities business at Crescent and Wade's Beaches for the 2022 summer season. And whereas the town board has reviewed the application to determine that granting of the license is in the best interest of the town of Shelter Island. And whereas Mrs. Springer has submitted the application and cleanup fees and certificate of insurance, now therefore be it resolved that Karen Garcia Springer is hereby granted a license to conduct business on town property. The nature of said business is for the sale of prepackaged health organic drinks like Coastal Kombucha, Green Street Juice, water, and ice pops. And be it further resolved that the subject permit is subject to the following conditions. 1, no retail sale of any goods or wares shall be permitted except for the sale of packaged organic drinks such as Coastal Kombucha, Green Street Juice, water, and prepackaged organic ice pops. 2, Suffolk County Health Department approval if required. And 3, sales shall not be permitted within the parking by permit only area of Crescent Beach. So it has to be outside of the regulated parking area at Crescent. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas a mooring permit W3565 was issued by JBH of Peconic Incorporated, Robert Waif, and used in connection with an oyster farming operation to expire on August 1st, 2023. And whereas the location of the designated as 41.0629 degrees north and 72.3537 degrees west in West Neck Creek off of Daniel Lake Road. And whereas special permission was sought and granted by the town board to allow a 20-foot by 8-foot float to be moored at the subject mooring along with one oyster boat for 1 year. And whereas JBH of Peconic Incorporated seeks a similar permission for 2022 to allow the same float and one unattended oyster boat to be moored at the subject location. And whereas there has been no complaints made over such use, and the Bay Constables have no objections. And whereas this use is being made by a resident commercial oyster farmer, now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-10, the town code of the town board grants amendment to the mooring permit at W3565 to allow for the mooring of one 20-foot by 8-foot float and one unattended oyster boat subject to the following conditions. There are 5 of them. Number 1, only one unattended boat and one 8 by 20-foot float may be moored at the subject mooring. Number 2, one flag of sufficient size as determined by the Bay Constable shall be installed on the corner of the subject float adjacent to the subject channel to increase visibility thereof. Number 3, the float shall be removed only upon the expiration of the subject permit, or if the commercial oyster business ceases, or if the principal of the JBH Incorporated, Robert Waif, is no longer a resident. Number 4, the float shall only be used by JBH of Peconic Incorporated, Robert Waif, and may not be assigned. Number 5, if any of the conditions are violated as deemed by the Bay Constable, the permit may be revoked by the town board after a hearing on notice, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to affix this resolution to permit number W-3565. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance has issued a notice of vendor collection credit to the town of Shelter Island for the period ending May 31st, 2022, in the amount of $200. Now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor hereby authorized and directed to transfer the sum of $200 from the trust and agency account to the general account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that Emily Kraus is hereby appointed to serve as temporary leave replacement superintendent of recreation for a 14-week period commencing approximately July 2nd, 2022, to fill the temporarily vacant position of superintendent of recreation at the rate of $1,361 per week. And be it resolved that the following 2022 transfers of funds and budget modifications are hereby approved. 2001. I'm not going to read all of
Yeah,
these.
they're
There's-
available.
They're there.
available in the town clerk's office.
Yeah, there's like a dozen of
It's
them.
all moving money from the superintendent of recreation into the various accounts for the people who are going to be covering her while she is taking paid family leave. So, and all the money works out so that the town isn't out of pocket and
Yep.
everyone gets compensated properly. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that Deborah Brewer is hereby appointed to serve as temporary leave replacement lifeguard assistant for a 14-week period commencing approximately July 2nd, 2022, to fill a temporary vacant position of superintendent of recreation at the rate of $20 per hour. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved that Kelsey Lekmansky is hereby appointed to serve as temporary leave replacement, the fit aid assistant and youth center aid assistant for a 14-week period commencing approximately on July 2nd, 2022, to fill the temporary vacant position of the superintendent of recreation at the rate of $20 per hour. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is authorized to expend the sum of $86,300 from the fund previously set aside for funding for grants pursuant to Resolution 563-2018, when the town receives back the grant reimbursements from the state of New York for the Crescent Beach Bathroom Pavilion. Such reimbursement will go back to the fund that was previously set aside for funding the grant. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Bennett and Reed LLP is agent for 42 Gardner's Bay Drive, care of David Wormuth, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for a wetlands / special permit to construct a single-family residence, 9,053 square feet, SFLA, with a proposed pool house, 226 SFLA, an accessory structure with sleeping, 1,500 SFLA. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 129-7 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 4:44 p.m. prevailing time on the first day of July 2022 in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed application. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Okay,
Want me to do it?
I got.
Be it resolved that the 2022 general claims numbered 737 through 892 in the amount of $153,330.60. 2022 highway claims 78 through 94 in the amount of $77,722.38. 2022 West Neck water claims numbered 9 through 10 in the amount of $333.60. 2022 community preservation claim number 9 in the amount of $4,759.97. Are hereby approved for payment as audited, and the supervisor or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approved payment of same. Said, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town of Shelter Island operates a recycling center, and whereas the residents are authorized to drop off unwanted paint at the recycling center, and whereas Paint Care New York LLC is a DEC-approved company which manages the recycling of unwanted paint and certain other products, and whereas Paint Care is desirous of designating the town's recycling center as a paint care drop-off site at no cost to the town, and whereas the town board has determined that it is in the best interest of the town to partner with Paint Care for the recycling of paint and certain other products, and now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute an agreement with Paint Care for the town of Shelter Island's recycling center to be an official paint care drop-off site. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we're going to recess the meeting and for a public hearing on the Untermeyer application. Dot.
You're muted, Dottie.
Dottie, you got on mute.
Sorry about that. The application of Michael Untermeyer, 24 South Midway Road, to install a mooring in Manatee Creek at a location designated as latitude 41.059913 degrees north and longitude 72.342182 degrees west.
The WMAC met on June the 6th of 2022. The WMAC approved this application by a vote of 6-1. It would be noted that this is the first applicant's mooring, therefore he is eligible for a carrying mooring. However, he has applied for a private, therefore the boat-specific mooring, which the committee did approve by a vote of 6-1.
Thank you. Any comments on this one? Questions? All yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to close that hearing and open the hearing on the Sean Ryan mooring application. Dot?
The application of Sean Ryan, 43 Brander Parkway, to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.065804 degrees north and longitude 72.364326 degrees west.
WMAC met on May the 2nd. This was not our last meeting, it's 2 meetings ago. On this application, voted to approve it. There are new coordinates. Those are 41.065742 north and longitude 72.331175 west. And this was it was moved in order to keep the mooring in line with the neighbor's mooring, and that's the only reason for it. But it was approved.
Any comments on this one? Okay, we'll close that hearing, open the hearing on the Sabalja mooring.
The application of Philip Sabalja, 6 Westmoreland Drive, to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.062797 degrees north and longitude 72.350006 degrees west.
We met again on June the 6th on this mooring application. It was approved by a vote of 6-1, but with the following conditions. First of all, it's got a new location of latitude 41.062477 north and longitude 72.357866 west. The reason for the adjustment was to align the proposed mooring with the owner's existing riparian mooring at W3624. The reason for the and also to align with the enclosed location map. As a per WMAC practice, the applicant will lose the riparian mooring and W3624 will become a private mooring. Therefore, the applicant must submit 2 things here. It's actually 1 thing here. A boat registration for the second boat to the town clerk. So Dot, this is contingent on you getting that registration for the second boat for that W3624 mooring. Okay?
What's the recommendation?
Recommendation was to approve by 6-1. Yeah.
Okay. Any comments on this one? Okay, we're going to close that hearing and open the hearing on the local law regarding community housing fund transfer tax. Dottie, rather than read it, I'll read the summary, okay?
Okay, sure.
This is a summary of the proposed law. The purpose of this local law is to amend the town code to establish a supplementary transfer tax of 0.5% as a continuous funding stream for the newly created community housing fund, where monies deposited therein may only be expended solely for creating and fostering community housing opportunities within the town of Shelter Island. The amendment will also increase the current exemption from the CPF tax of $250,000 to $400,000, since the overall transfer tax for Shelter Island properties will be 2.5% if this law is passed. Certain first-time home buyers will also be exempt from said tax. I've invited Liz Hanley to come and make a presentation before we open it up to the floor.
Yeah, so I actually won't be doing a presentation.
Okay.
But I did just want to give, I know there's other folks here to speak, but I just wanted to give a few just remarks on this. I think that this transfer tax really stands on the shoulders of an already proven thing that we've done, right? So we instituted when we as a town and as citizens and as neighbors saw the island changing, we didn't see our green spaces. We moved, we put our 2% transfer tax on the ballot we approved it, and we started preserving green spaces. We've gone back to this law before in 2017, I believe, when we started to look around and realize that water quality needed our attention. We went back to this, we revised it, and we set aside 20% to go towards water quality issues. And now we have this device with a proven track record. And at the same time, we have a housing crisis here on the East End. And so I am in full support of going back to this for another revision to add a 0.5% to this transfer tax and to adjust the exemption. I feel like that is absolutely in line with what we're trying to do here. That 0.5% would help us to address our housing issues. And again, it's just as a reminder, we can only, if this is passed, we can only use this money on a plan that the town is that we're starting work on. We're starting work on it this week. That is going to be developed with our neighbors' input. That's the only way we can use this money. And like I said, moving the exemption, I think, is also going to be really helpful. It helps us to address,
Christina, that one.
this goal of helping our families helping our families and our seniors and our young professionals stay on the island. I can only look to my own experience of what it was like for me attending the Shelter Island School and what my experience on the island was then, and what my experience and my children's experience is now. The class sizes are smaller. Our year-round population has shrunk, and we have to decide which way do we want to go, right? And I think that just in the same way that we made a deliberate choice to address conservation and we made a deliberate choice to address our water quality, we also need to make a deliberate choice to address our community's housing needs. So I'm really excited to see this on the ballot and look forward to seeing the results this November.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just want to just clarify that this is solely like what we have to do here in order to put this on the ballot in November. This isn't passing it. So
Correct.
it's not going to happen today. It just allows us in November that the public can come and vote on this and, say yes or say no. And it's also amending the exemptions from 250,000 to 400,000. So it's relieving burden on smaller property transfers. So I just wanted that to be perfectly clear.
Okay. Anybody wants to speak?
Supervisor, can I just chime in? I just want to chime in real briefly and lay out the mechanics of the law, if I can, for people who weren't around for the work session. So this is, again, as Ms. Hanley said, is a community housing transfer tax. It applies to any real estate transfers over $500, and it's a 0.5% tax. All that money goes directly into the community housing fund. It cannot be used for anything else. It has to be put into that fund and used pursuant to a housing plan that Ms. Hanley has referenced that we already started. The transfer tax is proposed to start on April 1st, 2023. And as Ms. Hanley also referenced, and Amber has, there's exemptions. So again, any real estate transfer over $500, transfer tax gets triggered. However, the first $400,000 on improved parcels is exempt. So it's 400,001 and above is how you calculate the 5%. So it takes the mid-level houses out of it. The exemption for vacant parcels is $100,000. And the exemption, or the people who benefit from the exemption, are only those who are purchasing a house for $2 million or less. Above $2 million, you don't get to take advantage of the exemption. And one other important aspect of this law is that a first-time home buyer, if you qualify as a first-time home buyer, you are fully exempt from this tax. The property has to be within certain price limits and your income has to fall within certain limits. But if you do, again, you're fully exempt. And I'm just going to echo what Amber said. This is adopting the law subject to a mandatory referendum. So in November, this has to be put up for a vote. And what's going to be put on the ballot would be this statement. Shall local law blank of 2022, once this gets assigned, enacting a local law entitled the Local Law Amending Chapter 50 of the Town of Shelter Island Town Code. Chapter 50 is the CPF transfer tax section of the code. And so that's why we're adding it to that section, to create a new 0.5% supplemental real estate transfer tax as a funding source for the community housing fund be approved. So that's what the language that's actually going to be on the ballot. And that's all I have. I just wanted to put this into context. And again, for anyone who wasn't in attendance or watched the work session, I wanted to give them background on the law.
Okay, two things. So again, this hearing is to put this on the ballot in November. And two, Stephen, just a quick correction. It's $1 million. Anything up to $1 million is less than it is now. Over and above is more. Okay, we have a list of speakers that signed up to speak. If you still want to, if you didn't sign up, you can sign up in the back. We'll start with Bob Cohn.
Thank you, Supervisor. I understand that this is not a town board meeting, but a public hearing. And there's a major difference between the two legally. The public hearing is a hearing legally under the state law. And I could call witnesses, I can take testimony, things like that. So I hope that the 3-minute rule would be not apply specifically. I have about 5 minutes. I will read this. It's only 2.5 pages. So I beg your indulgence.
Let me just check. Stephen, is that fact?
No, it's not. And we have our rules for the meeting and it's 3 minutes.
Okay, that's cut. The reason I ask is I was just happened to be watching Southampton's town board meeting today and they were 3 minutes. So we'll try you 3 minutes now. Go ahead.
I would also point out that there are parts of the decorum code that you have that are violation of the First Amendment, and I'll point that out at another meeting. But I hope that I have a chance to finish this. I'm here today speaking for island residents who are opposed to this proposed law and the referendum it concerns. These people are Democrats and Republicans, all walks of life, who I believe make up a vast majority of voters here. These include wealthy people, people living on fixed incomes, and young homeowners who made it into the middle class by working hard to raise a family and buy homes here. These are the people who will make sure this referendum is defeated in the fall. Many of these residents have told me that they are reluctant to speak out publicly against the referendum out of fear of being called, quote, cruel or, quote, elitist. But this debate is about overcrowding and pollution caused by high-density housing. High density can come from multiple unit apartment buildings and from a billionaire's 8-bathroom home. This is not about elitism. It is about public safety, protecting our environment, and preserving the character of an island we've all come to love and know. When the town board tells you that they were elected to build affordable housing, that is a figment of their imagination. They were elected to protect our water supply and our environment. As we all know, Shelter Island is unique in its high reliance on wells for our drinking water and septic systems to handle wastewater. At the same time, we have extremely fragile aquifers subject to saltwater intrusion and a high nitrate problem that threatens the health of residents in many parts of the island. At least 2 Long Island studies have linked high nitrates in drinking water to bladder and kidney cancer. To be affordable, housing must be built in densities higher than our traditional zoning laws allow. But higher densities draw out more water out of the ground. They also produce more pollution, not just nitrates, but pharmaceuticals, cleaning solvents, and other effluents that endanger our drinking water and threaten our tidal waters and our sea life. Unlike the North and South Forks, we simply do not have the drinking water and wastewater infrastructure to handle the kind of growth excess affordable housing will bring to this island. People who stand here and tell you otherwise, without any evidence to support them, are simply defying both science and common sense. Any professional planner worth his salt will tell you that these kinds of policy questions must be determined on a regional basis. Shelter Island, because of its unique situation and fragile aquifers, is just not the same as the North and South Forks and must not be treated as the same. If residents on the North and South Forks vote yes on this referendum, they will raise over $40 million a year. That's $400 million over 10 years, and I'm not even accounting for any growth. That's enough to build enough affordable housing to serve the East End for generations. If that's the case, there is no reason to take risks here on this island. We do not think the town board has adequately considered the hidden costs of this referendum and these housing projects. When are not,
You got to finish up, Bob.
I'm almost, I have.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we do not think the board has adequately considered hidden costs of this referendum and these housing projects. When are there not hidden costs to government projects? Since when have governments been known to be good landlords? The history of public housing and the government meddling in housing market is a series of train wrecks. Voters must consider the potential for gross mismanagement, tenants who destroy property, lawsuits from those who claim injury from drinking polluted or brackish water, and civil rights lawsuits from tenants who just refuse to leave. The list of costs to the taxpayers, property taxpayers, is as long as a lawyer's imagination. All these costs, plus the costs of policing, fire, medical, school, and other municipal services arising from the resulting population growth, will be funded by our property taxes, making our homes less affordable than ever. Increasing property taxes on those on a fixed income is the real affordable housing.
I'm going to have to stop you.
I
I'm going to stop you, Bob. You had more than 4 minutes.
asked for 5.
It doesn't matter.
This is not.
You know what, John?
Finish.
Let's let
Let him
Mr.
finish.
Cohen have his moment. This is his claim to fame. Go ahead.
Let him finish.
Please.
Thank you.
He has a right to, just let him finish.
All these, okay.
All right, folks, let's not.
Okay, thank you.
Bob, why can't you,
Now-
why can't you follow the rules
Now-
once in the town? Just
Now-
follow the rules.
Now- Volunteers, so they are on the island at 3 a.m. when the ferry isn't running. That's not needed yet, but we need to prepare for that possibility. But that's not what this referendum is about. It's about raising millions of dollars over 20 or 30 years to build, build, build. The politicians will spend every penny of it, and they can only spend it on housing subsidies. We just heard that. Voters should also be made aware that the referendum money could be used to subsidize housing for any household who earns as much as $148,800 a year. Other eligibility requirements for these housing subsidies will be recommended by the Community Housing Board, whose chairman told Newsday earlier this year, quote, "I think that people like me that really love this place and work hard and want to be here deserve to be here." The chairwoman of the town's Community Housing Fund.
All right, Bob, you said you had 4 paragraphs. I mean, what are we reading, a novel?
You know, you just had your vote, but you're not letting me vote.
You said you would let me finish.
No, I didn't know you were four more pages. Say that at all. Where did you hear that?
All right, finish. All right, thank you. Just go ahead.
One more paragraph, Bob.
Yeah, let him finish. All right. All right, no wonder why everyone is asking who will get these subsidies, okay? This is a very small town. 3 of the town board members do not own their own homes on this island. And the chairman of the Community Housing Board thinks he and others who work hard and like it here deserve to be here. The potential, I repeat, for public corruption is enormous. If that's your game, please move to New Jersey. It will not be tolerated here.
When are you leaving, Bob?
Many island residents.
Jersey is really where you should be. That's really where you should be.
Many island residents on Big
Jersey it is.
Many island residents on fixed incomes may wonder what is fair about a referendum that would use tax money to subsidize some hand-selected people who just want to live where they can't afford to live yet. And some of the people receiving the subsidies may earn more money than those who have homes and pay property taxes here. It is simply not fair to ask a taxpayer on fixed income to subsidize a family making nearly $150,000 a year. This is not how you build a community. This is how you destroy one. The bottom line is this law. This law would be used to fund an enormous amount of unnecessary development and growth, threatening our safety, our environment, and what we've come to know and love about the island. I urge each town board member to vote no on this proposed law to implement the referendum and to vote no on the referendum in the fall. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Next on the list is Maria Magenti.
Since we're really here just to talk about whether or not this referendum should be on the ballot, yes, it should be on the ballot. It should be on a ballot because this is the only way that we are going to be able to navigate what is obviously an extremely dire situation in which many people are not able to sustain businesses here because they don't have anyone to work for them. So my basic position is that we should put this on the ballot, that we should vote yes on it, though we will get to that later on another public hearing. Right now, we should follow our fellows in the rest of the East End and make sure that this referendum is available to everybody and that we are able to start a new future for the island through a housing fund.
Thank you. This is Virginia Girardi.
I want to thank you for allowing me to share my comments with the board. Let's see, in speaking in favor of the resolution being on the ballot, because I think it's government's responsibility, and I'll tell you why. I think that financial stability is a foundation for living a mentally and physically healthy and productive life. So if people don't have a solid foundation under, to live in, then they're going to suffer and they're not going to be able to produce as much for this world, and lots of problems that seem to be referred to and, may develop because of that insecurity. I've been consistently employed as a blue-collar worker and productive member of society my entire life, mostly as an employee of small businesses in the building and service sector. I feel it is not due to any personal failing that I have been housing insecure since becoming single in 2010. I'm going to opine, according to many experts, the responsibility for the run-up in housing price lays with the central banks, federal government fiscal policies favoring corporate profits, and the exponential increase in net worth of the most wealthy. It seems fitting that governments are obligated to address the suffering of those disadvantaged by this housing bubble, which it is. There is no increase in inherent value of the actual structures that are existing. It's a housing bubble and its negative impact on the state and local communities. Sustainably built, eco-friendly housing should eventually replace existing homes. The Housing Board agrees that this will be a priority for any retrofits or new builds in the program. And I firmly believe that this plan will benefit all the residents on the island.
Thank you. Next on the list is Salvador Pacheco. Salvador. Come on up, but
Yes, you have to come to the podium.
Hello.
Mi inglés no muy bueno.
Okay. Is Chris still here?
Chris just left. Salvador. I'll get you at another time. When Chris is here, we'll have an interpreter. Is that okay?
Okay.
Chris is out.
I think he just left. He had to leave for a wedding. Yeah, he had to leave for a wedding. Okay, we'll do it again. Thank you.
And maybe we ask if they wanted to.
I'll try to get somebody.
Okay,
And do next year.
okay. Mhm. Okay, next on the list is William Cummings.
I actually thought it was a sign-in sheet.
That's okay.
I think Sal might have too.
I think, yeah.
I'd like to voice my support.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Art Chang?
Hello, I'm Art Chang. I live at 71 Ram Island Road. I've been a homeowner since 2009. I've raised my two boys here. I also ran for mayor of New York City. And I can tell you that housing is a crisis around this country. It is not a cyclical and temporary condition, but it's a condition that is getting worse and worse by the day. I want to commend Ms. Hanley for her very eloquent description of all the things that has made Shelter Island a place that we wanted to invest and to be in. I want to thank you for your service in doing this. And I want to also point out that I'm a member of the Hay Beach Property Owners Association. This proposal is extremely important. It must be on the ballot. It is one of just several tools that the government needs to think about doing to make it possible for working people to live in the communities they serve. I think about the teachers, firefighters, EMT, the folks whose ambulances that we are going to need. We have an aging population, and we also have children and other people who want to stay here. So I am fully in support of this. My family is, and there are untold others who I know who are also in support of this. So I think we have a very potentially, hopefully, very silent majority to be able to actually bring this into effect. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello.
Okay, 23 minutes. I want to say that I'm here in support of putting this on the ballot in November. I was happy to hear what one of the other speakers said about stability of life when you have housing. And then I heard about the shortage of EMS. And when people have stability in their life, they're able to perhaps not work so many jobs if they're able to pay something that's working wage or affordable. So that maybe working one less job will give them the opportunity to volunteer for the fire department or the EMS. When I surveyed a few people about what it would mean to them if there was more housing, because not just affordable housing, it just means more housing on Shelter Island because there's very little. They talked about the possibility of living in a place where they can ask for something to be fixed without the fear of their rent going up or being kicked out, getting out of a possible domestic abuse situation, or for their stuff not being stolen by their landlord. So these are from people that I've spoken to about being in a more stable situation. Let's see what the next one was. I believe, and I could be wrong, but a lot of people are talking about the water, which we all respect. And working in the sciences as a science teacher, I respect the water as well. But I do believe that we can't move forward with building without Suffolk County approving.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the town, it's not the supervisor, it's not the committee, it's not the public health. Suffolk has to come in and say, yes, it's okay. So us putting this out to vote is a first step, but it's not going to happen without Suffolk County saying, yes, it's okay to build here. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. Because I know a lot of people are worried. We're you're not making the decision. Suffolk will, that's their job, is to make sure that it's okay. And then my eyes are really bad. And for those of you who are saying no to housing, I'm guessing that it's because you have housing and you should consider yourself blessed.
Thank you. Elena Rodriguez.
Lost anyone who doesn't speak.
Okay. All right. That was all these people that signed up. But anybody else like to?
Oh, we have one more.
I signed up.
We have another seat.
Signed up.
There's another sign up sheet.
Sign up.
Oh, I got everybody.
I signed up late, Jerry.
Okay.
I'll see another. I didn't get the paper. Come on up. I used them all.
All right.
Just introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Jonathan Russo.
Thank you, John.
I think I'm a little bit of an anomaly. I've been here 40 years. I'm not a hair legger, whatever it was. So, but I came here 40 years ago, and I try to respect the community that I came to. I rented a house for 14 years for absolutely no money whatsoever because I had no money whatsoever. But I was very aware that Shelter Island was a very special place, and it spoke to me, and I wanted to give back to it. So I've tried to do that in innumerable number of ways, acting in community service and promoting the better parts of this island for many, many years. And now I just look around and I find myself a little embarrassed and shocked at a lot of the social Darwinists that have moved here all of a sudden, and they've decided that they're going to make the rules, and they're going to tell the elected town boards, and they're going to tell the people who've lived here for generations what kind of island they're going to have. And I'm just appalled at that. It doesn't make sense to me that anybody would move to a very small, very interesting, very unique island and think that they're going to impose their social Darwin ideas on life and economic opportunity and welfare and housing on a pretty established community of people who've been here a long time. And I apologize for those people that are taking that attitude, because it's not the attitude I think most of the people that have come here as summer residents really believe. And I think when we do have this referendum, and I like what this gentleman said, we will be surprised at how we really actually want to help our fellow islanders, how we want to extend a hand to our fellow islanders. We want them here. We want the broad diversity of people that have made this island so special and have made me feel so welcome and comfortable here all these decades. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Christina Castellanos? Gina Kraus?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm in full support of putting the community housing referendum on the ballot in the fall. I think it's some time to let the taxpayers decide what they want for this community. We are a unique, the gentleman over here mentioned that we are unique because we are an island unto ourselves, an island that is basically inaccessible when the ferries close most of the time at night. This community needs to support the people who support this community, our fire force, our police force, our EMS force, our teachers, our town workers, our senior center workers, our plumbers, our electricians, our ferry personnel are all necessary to keep this island moving. I don't care what kind of housing you have. These are the people who are necessary to be here, often in the middle of the night when ferry is not accessible to come over. I've been fortunate to live here for 35 years. I've also worked in East Hampton and been part of other communities where affordable housing is in place. All our East End communities are working very hard to do that, to put affordable housing in place. I have been inside affordable housing. And you driving by would not be able to recognize it any differently from any other house on Shelter Island, to be honest with you. The 0.5% is an excellent strategy for funding this endeavor, so I'm in full support. Thank you.
Barry Silver?
Hi, I'm Barry Silver, and I live on Seagull Road, and I'm selling my house. Everybody's understood. Because there's no place for me to live here. I don't want to live in a house I can't take care of, and there is no logical place for me to go. So there's other housing needs besides affordable. But my feeling is that despite this verbose gentleman's list of issues, that's putting the cart before the horse. Why are you afraid to even discuss it? I think a discussion, which is what the referendum and the election would lead to, is essential. And for all the reasons that people here have articulated, I just think it's the right thing to do. It's being honest, it's being moral, it's having goodwill, it's being empathic. I mean, I think that's what we all would like to be. And to cut this whole process off now is crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that didn't sign up want to say anything? Okay, I think gonna close that here. Oh, I'm sorry. Valerie?
I just wanted to. Wait, you have to wait to get the mic and then state your name.
Okay, I'm Valerie Levinstein. And I wanted to just comment on the words that are thrown about high density, excess housing, apartments, this is in apartment complexes. And again, it was pointed out, you can't build anything without Suffolk County approving the water and the sewer. So that's number one. But I wanted this money that was thrown around that these people that are going to have close to $150,000 they make a year. I'd like to ask some of the other people, what do they make a year? That is for a family of four, and that is based on the mean income of this area. So that 100, and then that those people were making close to $150,000. They are eligible by the government, not Shelter Island, but big government, of being eligible for affordable housing. So this isn't like a ton of money. It sounds, to me, it sounds like a lot, okay? I never made that much money, but people now do, and people do need it. And how many houses are listed for under $1 million? 2. So that's just stop thinking about how much money and how many apartment buildings, because it's not happening. There aren't going to build those. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Supervisor, can I just chime in? I just want to say and make it clear that this proposed tax only applies to people looking to buy here. Residents do not flip the bill. It is the new residents who come in and will contribute their share to both preservation and community housing needs. So this doesn't increase anyone's taxes other than new residents buying here. And if you look at the average home price, it's 1.9 million. So it's people that have the money that should be able to, contribute towards those goals, and particularly community housing.
Thank you.
Supervisor?
Yes.
I'd like to respond to that. I don't think council is giving legal advice when he made that statement, and he's giving very poor economic advice when he made that statement. He really doesn't, he needs a lesson in economics. When you have a transfer tax, the buyer has to pay more to buy your house.
Bob, we'll have that at another time. This is
I'm just responding.
This is for the yes or no for the referendum. And you're entitled to your opinion about housing. Obviously, I don't agree with it, but this hearing is, do we vote for it or do we say, oh, no, we're not going to vote?
But don't let your tax
It doesn't matter. That's for another day. That's for another day.
Clarification. That's only.
And in closing, I just want to say, this town board would be failing miserably if we didn't put this to referendum. The whole point of a referendum is to let the public decide.
Yes.
Okay, this hearing is closed. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you for all your.
Brad, you've been waiting a long time.
You were excellent.
Hey, Joe.
I was excellent. You were.
Wait, the meeting's still going on.
We're still
We
live.
got a meeting going on here, Jonathan.
Say, yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, next.
Wait, no,
Let's leave you last.
We having a public hearing.
Guys,
Public hearing on your.
gotta go.
Still going.
Yes, meeting's still going on, so.
Okay, I know. We're gonna close we close that hearing and we're gonna open the hearing on the Sultan mooring application. Dot?
You're on mute.
The application of Sultan Ryan Sultan, 4 Glen Drive, to install a mooring in West Neck Harbor Cove at a location designated as latitude 41.06 2692 degrees north and longitude 72.36731 degrees west.
Okay, Jim?
Yes, same thing, comments I said before, is voted approved 6-1 with those conditions, and I cited those conditions. This is for Sultan?
Yes.
Yeah, it was 7-0, it's taken Pulley Mooring and Harborview Cove. No problems whatsoever.
Okay, there's nobody here, so there's no comments. We'll close that hearing and open the hearing on the public hearing on the Hyatt special permit application.
The application of Fred Hyatt, 2 Jasper Road LLC, for a special permit to develop existing vacant property with new 40-foot by 60-foot commercial building, parking, and equipment storage areas to support commercial arborist and plant care business.
Okay, we have anything?
What you got, Freddie?
Does it say Matt's here somewhere? Yeah. Hey there.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I'm not in the room tonight, even though I'm glad I'm not in the room tonight. Just want to on this project. It's the two Jasper Road, one in from Hubbard's or from Maria's and Hubbard's. The 30,000 square foot lot size, so about 3/4 of the minimum lot size for the area, which is 40,000 square feet. What Fred's looking to do is just put up a 2,400 square foot, 1-story commercial storage building, like you've seen a lot of them around on the island. Nothing too spectacular, nothing fancy at all. It's going to be in the back far corner of the property. So he's going to be entering the same way he is right now, same signage that's there right now, same type of vegetation out by the road. Coming up into the back, there's going to be parking on the left-hand side of the property, which would be the west side. So he'll have the adequate number of parking spots as required by the town code. It's all going to be gravel parking, so we're not going to have a lot of impermeable surfaces. What minimum lighting there's going to be on the building are going to be dark skies compliant lighting, and just there for what the minimum is required for the doors going in and, you know, providing safe ingress and egress into the building in and of itself. So, you know, it's a real basic, about as simple of a site plan application as you're probably ever going to see.
This is a dry building, right?
It's going to have, he's going to have a well on site, which is for washing off equipment and things like that. But there's not going to be any type of bathrooms, any plumbing facilities, or anything inside the building. Right.
Okay.
Would that be a problem if there was?
No, it's just, it doesn't require health department. So you don't have to deal with the
Okay.
setbacks, and there's no nitrate loading. There's none of that.
Okay. Okay, it's business zone. Fred's been there for a number of years further in the back. Now he's got the whole piece now all the way to the road. Any questions, comments?
No, simple.
Fred, anything you want to say?
No, we just planted some evergreens along the Beckwith property line, just to eventually give them some screening and cut down on the dust.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred. Sorry you had to stay so long.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Hope you're not paying them by the hour.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Have a nice weekend.
All right.
Okay, we're going to reconvene our meeting,
Close that.
We gotta close that.
close that hearing, and we will open the Pandium public hearing for discussion. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me again. Basically, what's changed from last month's hearing was initially the architect had the pool house listed as unheated space. We had talked about it during the last meeting. I've spoken with them since then, and I had actually sent the board some correspondence on the Monday following the last hearing, talking about changing that pool house area, the first floor of it, which is going to have like a game room, a little exercise room, and a bathroom. So the first floor of that building, just over 1,000 square feet of it, would be heated space and conditioned space. And then that way it increases our total square foot living area on site from what was originally, as part of the original proposal, 9,786 square feet. It increases that to just under 11,000 square feet, so to 10,922. It doesn't make any other kind of change to the plan than what was originally presented to you guys. Same number of bedrooms, same number of bathrooms, everything else. It's just this floor of the pool house or the accessory building would be condition spaced rather than unconditioned.
Okay.
Got it.
Anything, Meg?
No.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, in my head, I always assumed it would be conditioned eventually, so I was analyzing it in that fashion anyway.
okay. All right, thanks, Matt. Thanks for the update.
Thank
We're
you
gonna
very
close that hearing. Okay, and we will reconvene our town board meeting to act on some of these applications.
All right.
We'll start with the Untermeyer application.
Yeah. You want me to start with that?
There it is.
You got it?
I got it.
All right. Okay.
All right. Whereas Michael Untermeyer, 24 South Midway Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in Mananac Creek at a location designated as latitude 41.059913 north and longitude 72.342182 west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of June, 2022, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Sean Ryan, 43 Brandon Parkway, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island permission to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.065804 degrees north and longitude 72.364326 degrees west. And whereas public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of June, 2022, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the installation of a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.41065.742 degrees north and longitude 72.364462 degrees west. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Philip Sabalja, 6 Westmoreland Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 41.06292797 north and longitude 72.358006 degrees west. Whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of June for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition. And whereas all interested persons were heard in favor of or opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the installation of the mooring at the location designated as latitude 41.062477 degrees north and longitude 72.357866 degrees west. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I have the Ryan Sultan one,
Oh, okay.
Okay, want to do that one?
that mooring too.
Yeah.
Yes, well, we just continue in the right, this order that we have here, the local law one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I'm in favor of moving forward with this because I really do believe that, like, we want the public to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about the survey from the comprehensive plan where housing was not high on there. This will be our survey, whether this
Right.
passes or not. This is where we'll hear from the public directly. So I really want to move forward with this.
I second that totally, and I think you've articulated it perfectly.
No, I agree completely.
So this is the summary of the proposed law. Rather than reading the whole thing, it's on file with the town clerk's office. The purpose of this local law is to amend the town code to establish a supplementary transfer tax of 0.5% as a continuous funding stream for the newly created Community Housing Fund, whereas monies deposited therein may only be expended solely for creating and fostering community housing opportunities within the town of Shelter Island. The amendment would also increase the current exemption from the CPF tax of $250,000 to $400,000, since the overall transfer tax for Shelter Island properties will be 2.5% if this law passes. Certain first-time home buyers will also be exempt from said tax. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Ryan Sultan, 4 Glen Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in West Neck Harbor Cove at a location designated as latitude 41.062692 north and longitude 72.367312 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 10th day of June, 2022, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that ends the this portion of the meeting. We'll open it up to the public. Ambrose, anything for us?
Good, thank you, Jerry.
Julia?
Yeah, I have one question, Jerry, and it has to do with the changes in the exemptions. It's my understanding that the passage of this referendum, if the public votes in favor of this referendum, then we have the new 0.5% transfer tax, and we have the changes take place in the exemptions as explained in the law. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So if it doesn't pass, it stays the way it is now.
If it doesn't pass, it stays the way it is for now in Shelter Island, but not
Yes.
any place where it doesn't pass. Is that correct?
Yeah, every town is unique to its own. Yes.
That's what I had understood. Okay, thank you very much.
The other thing, just a quick aside, is in the original 2% transfer tax, and also in the second one for the water quality, Shelter Island by far had the largest turnout of positive voters. So I'm hoping that we see a big turnout for this one also.
And can I just make one other comment? You have a small audience on Zoom today. I notice there's only 3 of us here, but the new microphone that you're using, the microphone cut off when there was any sort of, when it got loud, either that or the microphone was shut off. So
it might be because
It might be Jerry's fault.
amid the commotion,
put something on the speaker by accident. That might have been it.
yeah, amid all of the hoopla, there was silence on Zoom. So
Okay.
let you know.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Bye.
All right.
Have a nice
thanks,
weekend,
everybody.